So what would it look like for you if it were different? If you didn't have that responsibility and if they weren't leaning on you, what would your life look like? What would you be doing?
Oh, I would have soared higher.
You think so?
Absolutely. I feel like I'm angry at everybody in my family. I don't like my family. If they weren't my family, it wouldn't be my friends.
Y'all, Toni Braxton didn't just carry the mic, she carried the whole dang family. And now Sis is finally saying that what we've all been suspecting for years, that she was the bag and backbone, and it's got her back breaking literally and emotionally from the time she was just a kid. Toni was forced to grow up faster, perform, provide, and protect, while the rest of the family sat front row reaping the benefits without lifting a finger. And now she's done playing nice behind the glitz and glam of Braxton family values was a mess that they kept under wraps, resentment, entitlement, and a family so used to leaning on Toni that they forgot that she had a breaking point herself. She especially called out Trina and Tona for crossing serious lines, stealing from her, taking what little piece she had left while still making her feel like she wasn't doing enough. And that's the kind of heartbreak that money can't fix, because while fans praised her sisterhood, what we didn't see was Toni silently drowning while being expected to feed, clothe, shelter, and breathe again for everybody. Yeah, y'all, there's a whole lot to unpack here, so grab your popcorn so we can breathe again.
The burden on you is the one that made it out. But you gotta be willing to let them fly.
I feel like I do. I feel like they don't let me fly.
Now everybody knows the Braxtons are back on our screens, and baby, it's messy from the outside. Toni Braxton looked like she had it all together. The voice, the Grammys, the glow. But behind the awards and magazine covers, she legit hated her life. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's put some respect on Miss Toni Braxton's name, like the queen, that she is back when some of y'all were still in diapers or embryos. Toni Braxton was already winning Grammys, topping charts, shutting down red carpets, and redefining what R&B excellence looked like, all while feeding a family that thought her success was community property. Y'all want to call her an artist? I consider her a whole legend. 7 Grammys, over 70 million records, sold, a voice that can make you cry in the club and in the church, and now she doesn't have that much to show for.
About 13 or 14, my mom, she had a really bad accident. She fell. Her back was really messed up, so she was in hospital a long time. And so I was a surrogate parent for a moment.
Where was Dad?
Working, had to make a living, had 6 kids.
It all started way back in Sever, Maryland, with 6 kids, a gospel-singing mama, and a whole lot of dreams. Toni was the oldest, and when their mom had a serious accident and ended up in the hospital for a long time, everything changed. Childhood for her didn't end, and it just kind of got skipped. She became the stand-in mama and the caretaker, the one who made sure everybody ate and had a roof over their heads. Meanwhile, their daddy was at work trying to keep things afloat as someone who had to secure the bag. Y'all, the backlash from that interview flipped public opinion against her. Not only that, but word in the streets is that Oprah even tipped off Toni's label about the interview, warning them that she might expose them. Like, who does that? But it felt like she was more loyal to corporate execs than to the women sitting across from her. So in the end, the interview wasn't just a bad moment. It was a career setback. Still, Toni tried to bounce back. But then came 2010, when life threw another punch. She was diagnosed with microvascular ANGA and lupus, which forced her to cancel her lucrative Las Vegas show. By this point, it was clear that the devil was working overtime in Toni's life, because just as things were going from bad to worse, her insurance didn't cover the Vegas cancellations. So guess who had to pay all out of pocket? Yes, y'all, her. That's production costs, lighting, musicians, hotel rooms, salaries, everything all gone. And just like that, she filed for bankruptcy again.
They weren't leaning on you. What would your life look like? What would you be doing?
Oh, I would have soared higher.
Then, just when you think things couldn't get any worse, the IRS and the California Franchise Tax Board pulled up uninvited in 2010, like cough up that coin and run us on money. Well, according to court documents obtained by the gossip site, the IRS filed the first lien against the singer before the new year on December 4th. The lien reportedly states that Toni owes a total of $340,252.99 in back taxes for 2017. However, her tax troubles didn't stop there. Days later, the state of California Franchise Tax Board also hit the 51-year-old singer with a tax lien of $1,116,5,464 for money owed, bringing her total of liens to $456,4,763. Both the IRS and the state of California warned Braxton to hurry up and pay, or they will start the process of seizing her property. Seriously, how does a woman who's still touring, still iconic, still making moves, still beautiful end up drowning in debt over and over again? Well, according to insiders, it wasn't just the labels and the sickness. Toni was also carrying her entire family on her back. We're talking bills, responsibilities, emotional support, everything.
That you were upset about stories that your overspending caused this, because it would appear, and you can explain to us whatever you want to explain to us, but it would appear that even if you don't believe that you got the percentages you felt that you got, you still knew that there was a certain amount of money coming in.
Exactly.
And exactly. And you overspent that amount of money.
Well, I was doing math. 1 + 1 is 2 all day long, all across the world.
And allegedly the same financial strain that has affected them for years came to light when their reality show picked up. Turns out her sisters had issues with how much more Toni and Tamar were being paid. Now reports say it got heated to the point where production had to pause filming and Toni stormed off and allegedly said she was done. And can you blame her after everything she's been through? Fame, illness, exploitation, family tension, public shame. You could argue that Toni Braxton is still standing. But at what cost and in what condition? But let's zoom in on this feud between the sisters. Just a quick reminder that we're talking about fully grown adults with voting rights in their late 40s and late 50s still beefing over their sister's corn like it's high school lunch money. But money aside, the Braxton sisters just can't stand each other. How they managed to shoot that show is a mystery that needs to be studied. But when I tell you, it's getting way too real in the Braxton household. From blocking each other to calling the whole family toxic, the drama is eating everybody up, including Toni Braxton, because she's tapped out.
That happened.
Because I allowed all my finances to become everyone else's finances. That's pretty much how I got.
But let's start with this mess, because before Tracy passed, Toni said they all promised to keep the peace for her. But y'all, ain't nobody keeping that promise. In fact, it's worse than ever. Reports say Toni is done, like she's over all the chaos. Word in the streets is that none of her sisters showed up to support Tamar's premiere for her cooking show, like nobody, and why apparently a major fight popped off just 2 days before the event. And right after that, Tana started throwing subs online, like, to everyone who distanced themselves from me, kindly stay there. And y'all, it didn't stop with that. Tana tied the knot with her longtime man Sean Hall after 9 years, and while Toni and Trina were there as her bridesmaids, Tamar was nowhere to be found. So clearly some sisters are picking sides. Then there's this awkward tension from their own reality show. When someone asked Tanda how she felt about not having access to Tamar, Tamar jumped in, saying Towanda just doesn't care about her. Tamar even said she always is the one reaching out first, and that Tanda only hits her up when the cameras is rolling. But Tanda, on the other hand, as unhinged as she's always been, simply said, I quote, "I don't pour into certain vibes anymore." Translation, she's done giving Tamar that sisterly grace. Tana literally added that she's only focused on her household now, her kids, and her man, period.
None of my siblings have helped me take care of my mother to make sure she was okay, except for Tamar. No one said,
This is before Vincent.
Before Vince, Mommy's car insurance is due. Let's help Toni with Mommy car insurance.
Don't know about y'all, but it feels kind of like, even though Tanda has always appeared as the level-headed one, she's been playing the long game. Really, there's been tension for years from what's being said. She's leaned on Toni a lot, especially during her divorce, and when her coins weren't right now supporting her sister. That's normal, but Toni's energy lately says she's feeling more used than supported. It's given, I got you when you needed me, but where were you when I needed you? And fans are going wild online, choosing sides. And some are saying Tana's always had issues with Tamar, and others claim it's jealousy over Tamar's career. But that isn't just a two-sister beef, it's affecting everybody, even Toni, who's been the glue for years, supporting, working, being a breadwinner. It's pulling back. People are saying the emotional toll from all this might have even worsened her health conditions, this person said. We did not want the Braxtons to come back just to see them arguing all the time. We want to see them loving on each other. That's what we need to see. This person said, sometimes you just need a long break from your family. They sound like they need that break, another one wrote. Toni is owed so much in so many ways. And then there's this last comment that hit the nail on the head. Always begins with their parents, especially their mom. She needs to be blamed. But y'all, we got to take a backtrack real quick and talk about Tracy and the real cost of family fame for the Braxtons. Because listen, if we're keeping it a buck, the real heartbreak in all this Braxton mess was Tracy. Before she passed in 2022, Tracy Braxton had already been carrying a lifetime of pain, like y'all remember. How she was basically cut from those early music deals just because of her early pregnancy. Yes, that hurt ran deep. And even though she tried to smile through it, everybody could feel that she never fully got over.
Of respect. I respect where people are. That's just
Is that where
I respect where people are. I don't engage. I don't pour into certain types of energy. I make different choices in my life. And that's just where I am.
And it somehow affected her relationship with Toni, which went beyond sisters having petty spats. It was layered. There was love, no doubt. But it was the kind of love that had been bruised too many times, but the kind that never really got a proper chance to heal. And now with Tracy gone, all that unspoken stuff just lingers in the air like a ghost. So when Toni starts talking about feeling dried up, yeah, it's about money. But it's also about emotional exhaustion, guilt, grief, regret, all those heavy things that come when you lose someone and you know their words are left unsaid makes.
Everybody has a narrative of, we left Tracy behind. We signed without Tracy. Right. Now, that part is true. We did sign without Tracy. But the fact is this. We signed in August. Tracy was pregnant with little Kevin. Back in the 90s, you could not be a female and be pregnant. And what they said is they want every woman to want to be like you and for every man to want to be with you. That was it. And honest to God, me and Trina was like, damn, we don't want to sign. Tracy was like, go ahead.
This whole Braxton family values thing, at first, it felt like a win and fans were hyped and the brand was booming. But behind the scenes, it was ripping them apart. Like, imagine already having beef with your family, and now there's a camera in your face ready to broadcast it to millions. That's not healing, that's pressure cooking the problem. And Toni reportedly said, I don't want to be the strong one anymore. That line alone had people in shambles. Like, do you know how many oldest daughters, big sisters, and go-to girls felt seen by that? That's not just a quote. That's a scream for help. Well, Tamar seems like she's ready to heal, but Tana's silence is quite loud. And with Tracy gone, Toni's probably realizing that time waits for no one. And if you ask me, this isn't just celebrity drama. It's not about clout view. This is about a woman who gave everything, love, money, energy, and finally said, I'm tired. But the plot thickens, y'all, because let me tell you, this show is about to get messy. In case you don't know, word in the streets is that Tamar just pulled the ultimate Braxton curveball by bringing her niece Ashley Braxton into the new season of The Braxtons. Y'all, this move is causing serious waves behind the scenes. And let me explain this. Though, you see, Ashley isn't just some random niece. She's the same one who came forward with the story that shook their entire family dynamic years ago. When she was just 16, Ashley said Trina's then husband Gabe started her not flirting, a grown man texting a teenager in Abel way. And Ashley didn't keep quiet either. She told her parents, as she should, and they told Trina, and at first Trina showed love and that she was sorry, and she stood by her niece. But as time went on, that support turned into silence, and then shade, and then full-on blame. Trina allegedly told people Ashley was old enough to know right from wrong, and some even claim Trina believes something physical happened and blamed Ashley for it. But let that sink in. A 16-year-old gets preyed on by a grown man, and she becomes the villain in her own family, and Trina cut her off and never looked back. Ashley has been carrying that pain for years. Now fast forward to this messy new chapter. Tamar, who's also had drama with pretty much every sister at one point or another, decides to bring Ashley on the show. And not just for a one-off. Ashes reportedly got a real role this season. And Tamara says she's bringing her onto the show too. Show support, she wanted Ashley to know somebody in the family had her back. But y'all already know how this family moves. Nothing is ever just one layer deep. The sisters are already beefing to the point that production had to be halted. But now that as she's stepping into the mix, everything's bubbling over, and some folks think Tamar brought her on just to be messy and to stir the pot. But Tamara says it's deeper than that. She said she wanted Ashley to know that not everybody in the family turned their back on her, so maybe bringing Ashley on board could be about healing. Or it might be a recipe for even more fallout, especially because this isn't about a niece joining a show, it's about old wounds, hurt feelings, silence, blaming, finally someone saying, I'm not holding this in anymore. But whether it's going to heal the family or split them even more apart, y'all, we going to see. But honestly, this season of the Braxtons might be their realest and last one yet. But I guess the moral of the story is that even the ones who seem the strongest need someone to check in on them too. Because once the cameras are off and the lights go dim, all that's left is the truth. And for Toni, that truth has been heavy for way too long. So let me know what y'all think about this in the comments down below, and then check out this next video.